Danielle Krysa. I am an artist, an author, a curator, and the blogger behind thejealouscurator.com. I would describe my work as simple, colorful, and funny. My art is about humor, really, I think, and telling stories. I was told in university that I shouldn't be funny. I made a lot of funny work, and I was told that it was bad enough that I was a woman and wouldn't be taken seriously, and if I was to be funny on top of that, well, then I certainly wouldn't be taken seriously. So I chopped out any bit of humor that was in my work, which was really hard because I'm a hilarious person. And so squashing down part of who I was and not putting it into my art was very counterintuitive, and I struggled for years trying to make the work I wanted to make without a huge part of myself in it. So now I've just embraced it and let myself tell those funny stories. The way that I make my work is I try and not be precious. For years, I would just stare at perfect blank canvases and perfect white paper and freak out. And so when I started doing this series about a year and a half ago, I would take little pieces of paper. I still do this. I put a whole bunch of paper out on my studio table and I just make brush strokes, different colors, different shapes. And once that dries, I go through my bowl of little cutout people and I put them on top of the blobs. And if a story jumps into my mind, that is instantly the title and I am done. If no story jumps into my head, then that is not the blob for them, and I move them along and maybe they end up in the bowl until next time. The best thing about being an artist, well, I mean, I can't not make. I've been like that since I was a little kid. I just have to make things. And but I'm going to scooch in with what's the hardest thing too, is that I felt really alone for a very, very long time. I made work in isolation. I didn't show anybody what I was doing for fear of being criticized, for fear that somebody wouldn't love it. And so I basically created a vacuum for myself. And so what's been amazing for me in the last few years is reaching out and finding all of these like-minded people who are in it too, and finding just, even one or two people that I can trust. And my people happen to not be in the town that I'm in. I have a friend in Portland, Lisa Golightly, who's an amazing painter, and I email her and go, what do you think of this? And then she writes back, and it's been the most liberating, amazing experience to have these people to reach out to and share the process with. I get my work out into the world right now basically with Instagram, and I very proudly just put up my own site. And I resisted that for a very long time, and for the longest time on Instagram I would only show the corner of something or a process shot. Again, I was terrified of showing what I was doing, and then about a year ago I thought I need to put on my big girl pants and actually show a full piece, and so I used Instagram for that, and the response has been amazing, and it kind of inspires you to show the next one and the next one and the next one. My main challenge in running an art business is probably making money. I have the Jealous Curator blog, and up until about a year ago, not even a year ago yet, I was a full-time graphic designer. I've done that for 18 years, and that's where my money came from, and Jealous Curator was purely a passion project that saw no money. But I made the jump last June in 2016 to try and really make this a business. And it's tough. And, I was really nervous to turn this passion thing into a business, and would those conflict and would the passion die? And, but, I wake up every morning so excited to do what I'm doing, and I just have to hustle a little more. I need to figure out, a paycheck doesn't come every 2 weeks. I need to figure out, okay, well, maybe the book deals, or maybe curating fees or speaking fees, or how's this all going to go? So it's a little bit cut and paste at the moment, but I love it and I'm figuring it out. Well, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of aha moments in the last few years. When I wrote my book, Creative Block, I sent out interviews to 50 artists from around the world because I wanted to know how they dealt with blocks and inner critics, and I kind of assumed they didn't have those because they were professional artists, so why would they ever get stuck? And getting those interviews back I felt like I lost 100 pounds off my shoulders because I thought, wow, these people who are living the dream, they're making money from their art, like that's what pays their rent, they get blocked too. They have inner critics too. They have days when ideas don't come. They have ideas, days when there are no ideas. And that made me feel so much better because it made me realize that I was in the club with them. Those things happened to me, they happened to them. We're all in this giant club together. And it really gave me the freedom to just exhale and make work and be okay with that. If I were to have any mantra, I think it would be just make. For the longest time, I would just stay in my head and I'd have to perfect the idea in my head before I could actually make it, which meant I never made anything. And so now when I'm in the studio and on the days when things just are not coming, I think to myself, just make. Whether that is junk that ends up on the floor or whether that is prep materials or whatever I'm doing, just make. I've set this time in the studio, so get in there and do it. I try and schedule time in the studio every week because I am really busy. I'm a mom and I've got a zillion things going, but I find if I don't schedule time, it just doesn't happen. So I probably right now spend 8 to 16 hours a week in the studio, and usually that will be a huge chunk on Saturday. And then I try and do an hour here, an hour there. But if I've decided that I'm doing that hour, I do that hour. I never push it off because that is a slippery slope. I wish somebody had told me back in the day to just not worry so much and not take it all so seriously. In art school, I just thought, it was the end all be all, and if what I was making wasn't perfect in a masterpiece, that I had somehow failed. And I wish somebody had told me that everyone has an inner critic. And, I think it was kind of narcissistic, but I assumed I was the only one that had that voice. I didn't realize that literally everyone in the world hears that too. And if I had known, I think it could have freed me up and saved me 20 years of hardship and self-loathing. Community is so important to me. And, I did isolate myself for a really long time. And I think that's probably why, in hindsight, that I started the Jealous Curator. I always tell people I started that solely for myself, which was true. I never thought I would have readers. I never thought I'd have a community. It was really just for me. And all of a sudden, I started getting comments with me too, which shocked me. I couldn't believe other people felt like this. And now, 8 years later, I have a community of thousands of like-minded people who get what I'm going through, and I get what they're going through. And it has literally, as cheesy as it sounds, completely and totally changed my life. I'm excited about everything all the time, pretty much. Now that I've made this jump and turned Jealous Curator into my quote-unquote job, my books, I've just released my last book, Your Inner Critic is a Big Jerk, came out in September, October, and I've been touring for that, and that's been amazing. My favorite part of touring is talking to the people after I get down and stop yapping, because everybody has these amazing Me Too stories, and I laugh and I cry, and it's just the best experience. And right now I am pitching the next book, so I am nervously excited, hoping that gets picked up and I get to write another one.